Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. This is a heartfelt chat with me, Dr. Foojan Zeine. I'm a psychotherapist, an author, and the originator of the awareness integration theory. And it's so beautiful to be with you all today. I know many of you have been asking for some of the books that are available for you if you wanted to learn about the awareness integration therapy, and I wanted to share those with you. Uh, the book Life Reset, it's for you. It's for everyone who loves kind of go through the book, a self-help book, and write and journal. We've done a lot of studies in Cal State Long Beach and other places and locations, and we really found that even when you're doing journal, we're getting astonishing results of reducing depressive states and anxiety symptoms, and it raises self-esteem and self-efficacy. For some of you who are psychotherapists or coaches, life coaches, and who are in a helping field, the awareness integration therapy book is available, and it goes through every single angle and the phases and principles of the theory and really teaches you how to utilize that with your clients. We also have certification programs for all of you beautiful therapists and coaches who would like to be certified in this theory. Also, the latest one is intentional in an international way, but all of the parents, all of the grandparents, all the teachers, people who are working with children and want to learn about parenting. You have intentional parenting, which goes through chapter after chapter of different stages and age groups and talks about different types of development, cognitive development, motor skills development, and goes through and teaches you how to really work through the awareness integration model and to put that. Now, for all of you who are love research, I have been publishing in the peer-reviewed journals a lot of different research and case studies from awareness integration. Today, actually, the latest one was published. And it's for couples therapy, how to use awareness integration in couples therapy. Please, 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 you can go to my website, foojanzeine.com or awarenessintegration.com, and find all of these wonderful either books or material that you love to get from that. We also, for some of you who would like to be doing the work yourself, I think that as you know, the Foojan app is out. So again, if you like to work and you do well with working and becoming aware for yourself, go to Foojan app. You can find it in Apple Store or Google Play, and you can get this app and work on every area of your life. We release 3 areas of life every single week. Every single month for you. And for the therapists and coaches who are there to support you if you needed a little bit of a deeper work. And this might be also the area that all of you coaches and therapists might want to become affiliated with, so that people who need you, they can find you after they're going through the app, if they decided to go a little bit deeper and love to do it with another person. Sometimes it's beautiful to work by ourselves, and then there are other times it's just beautiful to work with other people. How today in this episode, I chat with Dr. Karamiller. She is the assistant professor in the Department of Anthropology at California State University, Long Beach. She's a cultural anthropologist with specialists in applied and medical research. Her work on ecological well-being examines the effects of industrial development around Long Beach and LA County. Her fields of expertise include embodiment and empowerment in addressing health inquisites, inequities, as she explores art making and science-based knowledge building and promotes meaningful connections with nature. Her hopes to continue to contribute to community, environmental wellness, and is inspired by land and people and believes in holistic education. You can definitely find her at kara.miller at CSULB.edu. We had an amazing, soft conversation about how to see yourself as nature, be nature, and how to bring that into your system, into your home work environment, bring it into the medical environment and all. So I really enjoy her conversations, and I'm positive that you will as much as I did. Subscribe to this podcast, my YouTube channel, connect with me through my website, FoojanZeine.com. Go to my social media, any of them, you can go through the website. Get the books, connect with me. If you have ideas that you want to hear from me, questions you have, you need to get answers from some professionals, just let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Now, without further ado, this here is Dr. Kara Miller.
Break free from the forces holding you back. Get the life you deserve. Eliminate stress, reduce anxiety, decrease depression, and start living your full potential. Thousands have used Dr. Foojan Zeine's awareness integration theory, an evidence-based behavioral health breakthrough with incredible life-changing results. Getting rid of past trauma, having fulfilling relationships, increasing earnings, and living their best life. Now, the Foojan app is available to everyone. The app is Dr. Foojan Zeine's awareness integration theory in the palm of your hand. Download the Foojan app today.
Well, I am so excited to have you with us, Dr. Kara Miller. So wonderful of you to give me your time and be with our audience.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So for everyone who's listening or viewing us, this is the way I met Dr. Kara Miller. She's obviously an anthropologist in the California State University of Long Beach. And this was my first ever appointment as a faculty in Cal State Long Beach, and bringing my own awareness integration theory into the education. And so I got this letter that says, well, they will support us as a faculty, and they will come in and evaluate and give us feedback. And I'm like, yes, I'm doing something to tell me what I'm doing. So then you, beautiful Dr. Miller, came in and, kind of like evaluated, and then we got to know each other. And that's how I asked you to come and join me here and talk about your field of research and, the things that we can bring the area of psychology and anthropology together and talk about it.
Yes, thank you. That was such a joy to connect with you, by the way, through that program. I never expected to make such a great colleague. So that was exciting.
Yes. So, your field of expertise also talks about how to, what the culture and nature and history kind of bring together, right? That's kind of what you're looking at. So share with us what your research area, your interest really, and then we'll get into bringing the two together.
Yes, thank you so much. So I consider myself a cultural anthropologist. Some days I'm an applied anthropologist, some days I'm medical. They kind of all jumble together and go together. But as a medical anthropologist, I'm really interested in health from a very localized standpoint, thinking about how our environments affect us, the systems and structures that we're a part of affect us. And I also look at health and healing systems themselves, medical systems themselves. And so I've become really interested in embodiment, the concept of embodiment, and healing ourselves through various treatments of the body, including movement, kinesthetics, somatic body work, things of that nature.
This is an area that we work a lot in different angles. Well, obviously from the awareness integration theory, we connect with the body from a couple of different angles, especially when we're going to release trauma. So in order to release trauma, the only way you can actually access a lot of the memory is going through your body, because your body is the one who was holding the memory, and not just, there's a filing cabinet in your brain that you go in and open the filing cabinet and check in. it is your body that we could go through and find the memories from there. And then also the releasing of all of that comes from the body. So some of the conversations you were just having about how to be with your body, embodiment, and then releasing it through dance and movement, and then also connecting with nature helps a lot. What have you noticed in what are the ways that you notice that it could really release trauma?
Yeah, I think the access to nature, access to wild spaces, anything where we can see something sort of cyclical, it's very reassuring, it's very sort of connective. But also, I think that that has a power to soothe us, calm us, release that tension in our body that we sort of can't do otherwise. As you mentioned, it's sort of all is in that tissue. And I think here in these Western societies that we're in, we're very much from the shoulders up. We're very much in our heads, and we intellectualize and we try to solve our issues, even our own mental health, through this like thought process. And so sometimes it helps to just drop into a grassy space or some, a warm puddle on the beach, something like that. And so I think about a justice element with that as well, in terms of access and preserving nature so that we can go into these spaces. And it's always available to us. We can always, even a tiny little patch of grass, I think, can help us to sort of reset, ground, and yeah, just get out of our heads.
One of the things that the grounding conversation that you were having is a lot of people, when they go through trauma, they dissociate from their body. They don't even feel their body sometimes. And, they are not only their shoulder up, some of them I see, it's like they share with me, like, I'm only in my eyes. Or I've had clients share with me that I'm hovering above my body. That's my experience of hovering, and I'm not coming down from wherever I am, because it just, as I come in, then there's this huge amount of anxiety that overwhelms me. And as you said, one of the most amazing ways of doing is, and people laugh at it, but it works. It's hug a tree.
Yes. Honestly, anything. I mean, just to feel sort of the rhythm of the earth, and to just lay down. I mean, it slows us down. We move too quickly. We're in this fast-paced society. And so I think if we can take some cues from nature in terms of rhythm and slowing down and growing, blooming where we're planted, as they say, all of those lessons, in addition to that sort of somatic effect that it has on the body, I think, it's a beautiful opportunity for self-reflection, to feel a part of something, to feel a sense of place, a sense of belonging. All of those pieces, I think, all can be found even in, like we say, tiny spaces in nature.
Mm-hmm. So part of what we do is to put your foot down in the sand or on the grass or the ground and kind of like feel it, right? And then even put, I've had people to say that put your feet on the ground, put your buttocks on the ground, put your hands on the ground, and kind of like center and ground yourself, in a sense, on earth, so that you become part of like the earth, in a sense, and then start deep breathing within your body so that you can feel like this grounding is happening. And what do you suggest in the movement and all the other angles of your research?
I love that. I love the grounding exercises. I sometimes just do simple tapping on my body, anything that sort of, even shaking, as we know, to sort of shake things off. And I love the feet in the sand, feeling the textures. I really love to just lay on my back on grass and just kind of give my weight into the earth, give myself away into the earth. And so I think any of those, we just have to get past feeling silly or feeling like someone is seeing us do something odd outside. It might not be something we're totally accustomed to seeing in our environments and in our landscapes, but I sometimes see people do gentle movements, kind of facing the ocean or facing places in nature. I wish that I had a better habit of trying to learn some Tai Chi or some some really structured movement like that. But I love a simple grounding. I think even bringing the hands down, as you mentioned, is even better.
Mm-hmm. So in your own field, how do you bring the concept of anthropology and embodiment together? Where did you go? Oh, there you are.
Yes, so I think about embodiment very much fits into medical anthropology and the kind of idea of somatic healing, and it goes all the way back in anthropology. It goes all the way back to these studies of the mind-body divisions, right? And thinking about sort of integrate. That's why I love all of your work and all of the conversations about integration, because it really does come down to that often. Integrating various sides of ourselves, versions of ourselves, our mind and body, our traumas with our present and future. And so it really kind of in anthropology, it's about a sensorial experience. We talk about, how to attune to the places that we're in. So attuning meaning learning the cues from the environment, sort of blending with our environment, getting used to the sounds and smells, and all of that is how we think about data. We do a lot of like observations and data collection. And so sometimes in anthropology, we can sort of use our body as an instrument, as a tool for collecting information. So that's even another sort of side of the embodiment coin there.
So when is there a different type of data that shows up as far as health when people are living in a green area and with nature versus like cities and cement?
Absolutely. So in addition to thinking about just access to wild spaces and nature, the idea of urban developed industrial environments has a real compounded effect on our health. If we think about pollution and toxicity, the effect that it has on our air quality, soil quality, water quality. So everything from, are we able to plant gardens to grow fresh food? Are we safe in our environments? Can we breathe the air? Is it going to be detrimental to our health? But also, urban city environments have a particularly anxiety-inducing effect. The sounds, the sort of constant movement, all of the concrete, the materials, like you mentioned. So yeah, studies show that the urban environment can be incredibly compounding for negative health conditions. And we see that around Long Beach, around the ports and all the toxicity, pollution that we have around the diesel commerce areas and oil drilling. And so those neighborhoods, there's lots of research and lots of work that is looking at not just the kind of equity and justice elements, but thinking about planning for the future, making, safer, cleaner spaces for the future.
And how can, because obviously city planning is, we're not going to get away from cities, and city planning has the noise pollution and everything else in it. And I know that many of the research has shown that it really has not only risen anxiety, but also risen a lot of insomnia because of the stress level of the noise level and vibrations that are constantly there because of drivers and we went to New York one time. We were in this beautiful hotel, and my husband and I just could not sleep because like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and all of it was just like, all right, you come from, and we live in a beach city, so you go from a beach city into the city, and you're trying to stay in a hotel, and there's no way you could sleep because the body is not used to. I'm sure there are people who are living there, but their body and their system gets used to this type of stressors and adapts to it, but it's still a stressor. I mean, but there's still a stressor, right?
Yes, and light pollution as well. It's hard to sleep and get our circadian rhythms all intact when there is constant, sometimes neon, bright LED lights outside of windows. Obviously, people can, cover eyes and cover windows and things like that, but light pollution is very disruptive to I feel like, our physiologies.
And I've noticed, like I was in Hong Kong, and I saw that they were trying to put greenery on top of the buildings or add flowers and greenery consistently into the architecture of the external architecture of all of the buildings, because of this type of sight, at least watching, looking, being part of the greenery. Is that what you're also finding, that most of the urban planning is shifting into bringing nature to it, even if it's kind of artificially happening, but at least it's like manicured nature that is becoming part of this due to what we're talking about?
Yes, absolutely. I'm fascinated by the integration from an architectural and city planning standpoint of bringing nature in. And as you mentioned, sometimes it is just the suggestion of nature, the symbols of nature, a feeling of a reminder of nature. And I'm actually fascinated from sort of a layman's mental health perspective of all of the ways in which I'm observing folks bringing nature into their environments or replacing things that we used to sort of have as humans. For example, LED fireplaces, to put the fireplace, this idea of the hearth and warmth and gathering. But I'm also seeing a lot of LED lights, colored lights. And sometimes I feel like that's people doing sort of color therapy, informally, unofficially, weighted blankets, all these ways we're sort of soothing ourselves. And as an anthropologist, I think about that's deep in our DNA. That's deep in our archaic DNA that's coming from our early human ancestors, where we crave collective gathering. We crave to sit around fire together. We crave that sort of soothing that comes from one another and from nature. And so now we replace it. We think about ways that we can maybe have a screen that looks like bamboo instead of, forest bathing out in nature.
I think there were these type of wallpapers that were all nature wallpapers that people were putting in their bedrooms, and there was in Pinterest, I saw these type of wallpapers that they're putting on the tiles of their bathroom, and it looks like you're walking on water. So they're getting really, really creative with this concept of how do you bring nature to you if you can't go to nature. Obviously, although visually it does help, but the feel of being in the nature is very, very different. It's the first time I remember I hadn't gone to Hawaii before, and I kept looking at the videos and the pictures, and I'm like, oh, I know how it feels in Hawaii. I know what it is. It's not like you walk in and you go to Maui and then suddenly you're like, wow. Or even right now, like I go outside and we have green hills because of all the rain. Mm-hmm. And I look at it and I'm like, I got to take a picture. And I take a picture. Obviously, it's not the same. Because, so it's like, how do we compensate? But still, no matter how you compensate, I think that it's so important to take those time. Whether you could drive to somewhere, whether it's the parks in the city, driving to somewhere where there's like a sand in the ocean, taking the holidays into the nature area so that you could at least grasp those, the real thing once in a while.
Yeah. Absolutely. And water is another one, just the sounds, to have, the babbling sounds or the waves, and even in Long Beach, you can walk around, even if it doesn't feel like you're in some deep expanse of nature, you can be at the beach and, from downtown in just a couple of minutes. So it's kind of a unique place where we are in that way, but absolutely making time, carving it out, setting a destination, something to look forward to, and to really be able to really slow down and prioritize one's self instead of like, oh, I'll get to that later or something like that.
How do you utilize this concept in your different types of research or classes as you research in anthropology or teach it?
Yeah, so I think about, our healthcare systems here in the US, and I think about how they're based on, biomedical protocols, and often those don't take into account people's embodied experiences, people's emotional terrain, individual personal histories, things of that nature. So my work tries to humanize healthcare systems and bring in that sort of embodied self-reflection that oftentimes our medical systems don't have the time or the space for. Because, I argue that it leads to better care, better communications. And so, it's also this tool, again, that's just readily available to us that we can learn to really observe ourselves and our bodies. And then we know more about how we're doing and what's going on with us when we are empowered to feel our own sensations and know what that means, and know, okay, I might be getting a little dehydrated or whatever it is. And instead of relying only on a clinical perspective to sort of diagnose us or to, medicate us or something like that, I think it's very empowering to study our own senses and to bring that into the medical encounter. I mean, we need both. We need our beautiful high-tech medical systems, and we also need the slow, empowered, embodied approach to understanding ourselves.
And are you seeing the people on their own should be kind of responsible for doing this and then taking it to their doctor, or are you also bringing it to the medical field where they can assess for that, or they can be part of how they share all of this with their patients?
Very much both. I look at how we can train practitioners and providers to, there's a huge body of discourse in health humanities that looks at exactly this, how practitioners can treat patients as, as real people instead of just a chart or a medical history thing, all of that, but also
lab results.
Exactly. But exactly as you mentioned, but also bringing that sort of agency to the individual to, to provide knowledge. I feel like, everyone should know about themselves and their own bodies instead of relying on information from elsewhere. And now we're seeing a lot more at-home care, a lot of telehealth and medical providers zooming in. And I feel like, maybe that does help to empower people to get a little bit more curious about what's going on with them and what they can do to sort of assist their regimen or to prevent conditions in the future.
One of the things that just came up for me as you were sharing is that there's a lot more where people would take on the agency of saying, okay, this is what's going on. This is how I feel. This is what my experience is. And I do think that the practicality of also the training, the medical industry to also take this into account and actually take it serious, because I think sometimes when even when someone has the agency of seeing and monitoring and sharing and bringing it, and I've said to my clients, can you monitor that? Can you log that? So when you go to your physician, you can bring your log and say, this is my mood log, or this is my stress log, or this is where it holds me, all of that. And sometimes they are dismissed as if like, this is just your subjective experience, which is not scientific. And we're just going to go with the lab results and what it says. So that's why I was asking, wouldn't that also be an important training for the physicians, or in medical schools, or somehow that they take the the subjective type of experience that the patient has into account of what's going on. And then therefore for them not to just be, the MRI, or not that those are not important, because you can't just go with a subjective, you do need to go with the objective result. But as you say, the training is needed for both groups to be able to really look at. Most people are not into like logging, and I found so much more data, as you say, when my clients log. Again, whether they're mood log, they've done that, and even through the day, where what are some of the stressors that they're not even witnessing. They know that by 4 o'clock they want to yell at their kid, but they're not really looking at what has happened through the day, where by 4 o'clock they've had it. All they know is by 4 o'clock they want to yell at their kid, and it's as if it's the kid. And you go back and it's like, can you monitor your day and see, based on your physiology is telling you when the stressors are pushing you, and then right at that time, what is it? So just put it on your phone at 12 o'clock, this happens, and this is what happens to my body. And slowly but surely, we've been able to release and change what are some of the behaviors or the stressors. The funny thing at one point was, I had a couple who once a month they would have physical fights with each other, like extreme. And then like a week later, and then the husband comes in and she's, my wife is bipolar, and then we sit down, and at one point I started looking at my charts, and I'm like, exactly every month this is happening. So I told the wife, and I said, can you please monitor not only your mood, but also menstrual cycles and sleeping cycles and all of that. And within almost 2 months, we exactly knew what are the times that, all right, this is going to be a physiological concept. And maybe you need to let yourself and, your family know that you're going to kind of isolate yourself a little bit, because you're going to be more sensitive to everything that's going to go around you. Yes. And they're on, all the fights were done, because not only herself, but the whole family became aware of what our physiology goes through and how we can manage it and adapt.
Yes, I love that. And I think the menstrual apps, the tracking of menstrual cycles through apps on the phone has really taken off. And I think that's really empowering, not only for sexual and reproductive health, but also just to understand hormones and these cycles of hormones. Absolutely. And yeah, just to know, maybe next week, give me a little space or something like that. Yeah. And thinking about the protocols, medical protocols, with the subjective pieces that you were talking about, sometimes it is as simple as maybe we add a section to the intake form that is a little bit more from the patient's kind of emotional health and how they're doing in this moment and some of their own observations. But, as we know, we're in this rush, hustle culture, and we don't always have the time or space ourselves to log for ourselves, and medical professionals don't always have that moment to give us that extra sort of care, and we understand that. So yeah, these tools that help us to track or help us to journal can actually be really incredible.
Yes, I think that it's very important to be able to create that. And as you said, the agency of the person to bring some of this and take care of themselves, it becomes very important. And I think that people just get involved in a routine, and they're not necessarily noticing that this routine might not be the best routine for them, right? It might be detrimental to their life, and they should really monitor that routine and see what's happening. Even, the ratio of insomnia has gone so much higher. So it's like, well, what is happening for me during the day and right before sleep that the ratio is getting higher and higher? And I think that's probably something that is important for people to take notice and to take ownership of, and then responsibility of, in taking care of themselves in that way.
Absolutely.
How other way are you bringing your field of anthropology into the medical field?
Well, there's a lot of conversations on cultural competencies in medical spaces. So understanding, people's cultural perspectives, and everything from, how they identify to what their preferences are for medical treatments. So that's a big thing in health humanities. medical anthropology and health humanities have kind of merged, or they're under this umbrella together. So there's a lot of talk for releasing stress and compassion fatigue on the side of providers as well. So that sort of overburdened, overworked, the stress that actually falls on the shoulders of providers. That's a big part of that discourse as well. But also sort of taking into account what was at one point considered complementary or alternative therapies, right? So thinking about the integration with Eastern medicine, acupuncture, Chinese medicine, obviously UCLA Hospital is like a beautiful example of that integration, but that's not very common. And so thinking about knowledge exchange between traditional medicine providers, clinical providers, community clinics and hospitals. So that sort of idea of a network of care and integrating care from a more holistic perspective. That's a big part of what we talk about, or at least what I look at. And also thinking about education, resources, outreach, all of that. So thinking about changing even some of our K through 12 curricula that to incorporate things like self-discovery or emotional wellness, or we see these frameworks of wellness changing right before our eyes, right? So like even the beach wellness campaign that we have through our campus, they have included things like emotional health, environmental wellness as part of the model of holistic health. So I think that is really important. That seems like progress for me to think about. Again, that really broadens, that humanizes us, that gets us away from just being a set of data or a set of chart information. And so that sort of change to the system obviously is very slow and happens very slowly over time, but we achieve that through small changes, like maybe just incorporating that subjective piece into intake, or, I've observed in my own, just in my life, providers have been trained to treat folks a little differently. And I think that now you get a little bit more questions and sort of, informal conversation before a treatment. And so that matters. And, again, you get better information from the patient, better care, in addition to them feeling more empowered. So there's a lot of, talk about making complementary and alternative, or some of our more holistic care methods, more mainstream. That's sort of a goal, so that things like body work and somatic therapy are not some sort of, yeah, exactly. They're not some abstract concept. It's like, and it can be very simple. I think school children should be doing like, basic stretching and just sort of little pieces to shake their stress off during the middle of their school days. So it's such a like comprehensive, change to think about revolutionizing medicine, but I think I see these trends kind of headed in that direction. So that's kind of exciting.
Dr. Karamiller, everyone. Anything we haven't shared that you really want everybody to know?
No, only that, we should all, no, I will take the should out. We can all be tapping into our own power, and our own sort of self-love is a key.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And to know that part of, as you were talking about, our body is part of nature. And the more that we want to heal it is having to be close to it. It's incorporating it and not see it as something, we're not objects.
Exactly.
We're not the technology. We are nature. We use technology, but somehow we've, it's as if, okay, we are part of the phone and the TV and the computer, and we are one of those versus the part of nature. And I think that's probably the discrepancy that is there. So we are the nature, and we got to be part of the nature, and we use technology.
I love that. So if you can't hug a tree, or you don't want to hug a tree, you can just hug yourself.
That's part of the tapping you were talking about, like realizing that this isn't me and I can, caress myself. I can be doing that. And, it's bringing me to me, and that's the embodiment you were talking about. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. How could people find you? And
Thank
where
you.
could they find you?
Thank you so much. So you can find all of my work on the Department of Anthropology website at CSULB, and kara.miller@csulb.edu if you want to get in touch.
Beautiful. And for all of you who are out there, create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye.